Hi guys, today I am going to tell the story of when I quit my 2017 Appalachian Trail Thru Hike. My name is Tara, otherwise known as Candy Mama, and there is somebody new sitting next to me and I'll let him introduce himself.
My name's Jonathan. I am Tara's husband. A few years ago we were the DOWER Duo. Some of you will remember that.
Yep. This channel moved over to my personal adventures. It used to be the DOWER Duo, like he said, so for those longtime subscribers, you guys probably know who he is. It's kind of like a throwback to old times. Most of y'all know that me and Jonathan thru hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2019, but I don't think a lot of you know that I actually quit my own personal solo thru hike in 2017. So today I'm going to tell that story and Jonathan is going to fill in some gaps where I might forget, because he was along for the ride too. Even though he was back home 2 years ago, I did make a video about how to recover from a failed thru hike, but I didn't get into the story of failing that thru hike as much. It was still a sore topic. Today it's still a sore topic and it's hard to talk about, but I felt like I should tell the story in order to help other people who might be going through a failed thru hike or going through a similar experience failing a thru hike in the way that I did. So my hope is that this does help some of y'all. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna start from the beginning in 2012 when I was in college in my dorm room and I watched a documentary about the Appalachian Trail and I fell in love. So after college, instead of getting into a career, I decided I would prepare for this thru hike. So I saved up a bunch of money, I got my gear together, and I was physically prepped. But something I was not, we'll get into later, I was not mentally prepped. But essentially, I was ready. I was going to start in April.
During that time when Tara was getting ready, we were actually kind of in an off period of our relationship. But 2 months before she got started, we got back together. I fully understood and fully knew what Tara was planning for and getting ready to do. Planned start date was coming up soon. There was absolutely nothing in me that wanted her to like stay home. I knew this is what she wanted. I knew it was something she'd been planning for a long time, and so I wanted this for her too. I wanted to send her out. What I don't think I understood was just how that emotionally affected her, and you'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Even though I was supportive, us getting back together, I think maybe ended up having some effects on the trail.
My mom took me down to Georgia and we stayed with my grandparents who actually have a house in Ellijay, which is super close to the start of the Appalachian Trail at Amicalola Falls. And I did the approach trail and I forget the shelter I stayed at. Right there, I think it was Stover Creek Shelter, and I'd get there. But I went down to the water source and I remember crying because I did feel like pretty sad and missed my family. I felt pretty alone, even though there's people at the shelter. But I did eat and I slept pretty well, and the next day I was hopeful. I just thought like the first day, there's like first day jitters. And that second day, honestly, I was fine. I did try to make a couple friends that didn't last too long. Either people were hiking too fast or too slow, and I didn't really stay around any people, which, you know, again, that just added to more loneliness. But again, I was fine. And I remember texting Jonathan and sending him a couple videos of me like singing to some music. I think I was singing Beyonce. And do you remember that?
Yeah, actually, I completely forgot about that until you just said that.
Yeah, and I remember I was singing Beyonce and I was like, today's great, it was a great day, and I was feeling good. The third day I planned on hiking to Mountain Crossing, or Neal's Gap, going over Blood Mountain and going to Mountain Crossing and meeting up with my grandparents. We just planned on seeing each other, but once I got there, I did decide to go back to their place with them since they did live so close. And so then we're back at Mountain Crossing the next day and they dropped me off, and I was planning on going to Low Gap Shelter. But I do remember this day because it was really tough and I really wanted to make friends really bad. And I miss my family and I miss Jonathan. This is kind of the first day where I started feeling it pretty like, it's our dog Jerry. Blind Jerry on Instagram. He's here with us right now, under the table. The fourth day was pretty tough. I really felt it deep down, like this loneliness and this this anxiety, and I had never really experienced anxiety like this before. I had, but it came and went. And I thought it was because I wanted more friends out there.
He's thirsty.
Are you done?
There he goes.
So I got to Low Gap Shelter, and there were a lot of people there. There were 4 guys there that I really connected with. They were really goofy and fun. But before I actually got to know them, I set up my stuff in the shelter, and I just felt terrible. I felt lonely. I felt anxious. I feel sad. I remember calling up, I have enough service, Jonathan, his sister Bethany. Oh. And they were all happy and laughing, and I was like, these are my friends and I'm not with them, and they're having this great time. And I remember like crying to them on the phone, how I felt lonely. And I mean, this just goes on for a little bit, so I don't need to get into that a lot, but I do remember crying and I felt lonely. So one of the guys noticed and comes over and asks me what's wrong, and I lie and I say like my dog, which had just died maybe a couple months ago, Mika. Again, I'm sad because of my dog, which it wasn't. So he asked me if I wanted to eat dinner with his trail family, all those goofy guys. We ate dinner and it was a lot of fun, honestly. They actually gave me my trail name that night, which I don't use anymore, but my name then was Beartooth. So the next couple days I had hiked with them, and that was really good. I actually meet up with my grandparents one more time. I'm seeing these guys who are my friends. But honestly, I still, during these next like 4 days, I'm still feeling pretty anxious. For some reason, I'm still feeling lonely. Even though I made these friends, I thought it was because I wasn't making friends, but now I've made these friends, and I'm still feeling this loneliness and missing people and this anxiety that I really can't explain. It was like, yes, I was missing family. There's this other component, and it manifests in some really bad ways. I actually thought in those next 4 days that I wanted to harm myself. I wanted to break my gear. I still wanted to keep going, but I felt like I needed a reason to get off trail. I felt like my anxiety wasn't a good reason. And I thought like if I had just pushed through, I would feel better eventually. Like everyone feels these feelings of loneliness and anxiety just at the start of this amazing adventure. I'll get over it eventually. And I mean, I never did. And I felt like this doom. I felt like if I didn't take care of it, if I didn't go somewhere, if I didn't do something, there was this like doom.
You just talk a lot about letting everyone else down. And so if you were considering getting off trail because of your anxiety, you were convinced that that wasn't a good enough reason to let everyone down. So I don't think I knew about you like wanting to hurt yourself or break your gear, but I think that was just you trying to find an excuse that other people would agree with, because you're convinced that my anxiety out here is a bad reason you're gonna let people down for getting off. I just knew not a single one of us would have been disappointed or let down by you making that decision.
Physically, I was great. I could run up those mountains. My gear was great. It wasn't like I was scared at night, so it wasn't like I was missing human interaction, and it was hard to pinpoint why, but I think a lot of it derives from missing Jonathan, missing like my routine and my family. And I was wondering, like, I have all these great things, why am I out here?
I don't think this is something we talked about at the time, but just listening to it now, when you have those types of feelings, I mean, I understand if you struggle with anxiety, you know, like sometimes it's an irrational feeling towards the situation. But if you're explaining something as like, I felt like this was going to be like impending doom.
It was impending doom.
Sometimes, I don't know, I believe like sometimes there's more to that. You know, you have no idea what was ahead of you. Everyone has a different experience. You have no idea what the next 5 months holds. Like, and you still you'll never know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, you can blame it on your own faults, but sometimes those things are worth taking note of. And
I had 8 days of trail under my belt, and me and the guys made it to Bly Gap. We had crossed over to North Carolina. I remember maybe in the morning time feeling a lot of anxiety and feeling like this need to break like something in my gear. And a guy in my trail family actually broke his trekking pole, and I thought, this is so irrational. Like, why did I thought this? I don't know, but I thought like, oh, he's lucky. Like, he's so lucky. Because I thought like that could be the end of a thru hike. That's how irrational I was feeling.
Looking for a way out.
Yeah, and it was, we'll get into more that whole thought process towards the end of the video. Like when we were in Bly Gap camping, I was feeling okay. I was actually like hanging out with some people and having some good conversations, but it was supposed to rain that night. If you guys know me, I don't mind the rain these days as much, but it definitely makes me anxious. And I do have mood swings when it gets cloudy or rainy. I feel this sadness. That's why I did so well in San Diego, because it was always so bright and happy. But like when the rain's coming, when it's cloudy, I just can't help it. I just feel like a little sadder. Maybe we'll get a little shot of Jerry in this video. You guys can see what he looks like. Jerry. But overall, getting into my tent, I felt okay. And I was hopeful for the rest of the hike. I was hopeful, and I did want to continue it. But I went to bed. I remember, I think I talked to Jonathan just briefly, but I went to bed. I think I had like I had my iPod at this time, like an iPod Classic. I think I was listening to music, and I went to bed, and I woke up, and this is kind of like the pinnacle of the story, but I woke up, and it was around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up with a migraine. If you guys have migraines, you know how terrible that is. So I woke up with a migraine. It was lightly raining. I felt this chest pain, like something was sitting on my chest. There's something sitting on my chest, and it felt like the tent walls, kind of like what Jonathan was saying before, but it felt like the tent walls were closing in on me. And I started like breathing really heavily, and I was sort of freaking out at this point. And I called Jonathan up on the phone, and he's just trying to get me like under control. He tries to get my breathing under control, and he's just trying to help me out. And even talking about it right now, I'm feeling like this anxiety that's coming over me, because it was really tough. I was all alone. Even though I had these new friends, I didn't want them to see me like this. I didn't know what was going on. So I actually called up my grandparents, who again weren't too far. I think at this point, they were about an hour away from me, and were gonna meet me at the nearest point. So I packed everything up, and I saw one of my friends outside, and he was like, what's going on? I was like, I just need to get off trail. Like, I have this unexplained chest pain. And I left trail. I hiked about 3 miles. I'm hiking, and I'm crying, and I'm freaking out. And I walked past this house down this on the Appalachian Trail, and you take a right down this road. And so I'm walking down this dirt road, and there's this house, and this little yippy dog comes out of the house.
Is it trying to bite you?
Yeah. This little yippy dog comes out of the house and starts biting at my ankles. I was so mad. I was like, what the heck? Why is this happening to me? I was crying and I was freaking out. This dog's biting at my ankles.
Should have punted him.
No. Here at Terror Treks, we do not condone pet or animal
punting.
Violence, punting. But I was freaking out, and that wasn't far from my thoughts, but we don't condone that. Yeah, so my grandparents picked me up. They take me back to the house. I think at that point, I was just like, I do not want to experience that again. And I want to figure out what exactly happened with my chest pain. But I just decided I was gonna go home. It was really rough to make that decision. And that's pretty much the end of the story. I did go back to the doctor, and they told me chest pain. And nothing was wrong, but it was pretty much anxiety induced. I did go back a couple times to trail. I went back to try again, tried to flip up to some friends, and I hiked with them for about 2 weeks, and I was hopeful to continue. A couple things happened. I should probably just give it a go another year. I had like a slight allergy attack to peanuts and a couple other things. So I did hike with them for 2 weeks. Plans to continue on and do a flip-flop hike, but didn't do it. And then I went back for a couple other sections, and that was good. The section hikes were good to do on my own. I think it comes down to the reasons why I quit my thru hike was anxiety overall, just a general anxiety. And there could be a lot of reasons why I felt that anxiety. I think the main reason was because I miss Jonathan, I miss my family. It was hard to admit to people that I had not done this thing I had told everyone in my life that I was gonna do. And I felt like my reason for quitting was not acceptable. For a long time, I talked about the chest pain that I felt, which was a real thing. I did feel chest pain. But that was my way not to say it was anxiety. For me personally, it doesn't have to be everyone, but I feel like there's like an acceptable reason to quit a thru hike and not acceptable reason to quit a thru hike. And that is toxic, honestly. Like when I hear about somebody quitting a thru hike, that's fine. Whatever reason they have to quit a thru hike is fine. Like that's their choice. I don't judge anyone else except for myself to those standards. If it's financial or injury or gear failure, that's an acceptable reason to me. But for me, having an anxiety attack and missing family, that was another big thing. I did not want to admit that missing my family or missing Jonathan was the reason I got off. I wanted to do this thru hike because I wanted independence and I wanted to be self-sufficient. But turns out I really like this guy. I've learned that some people are just reliant on these relationships, and that's fine.
I think a lot of your anxiety also came from pressure that you put on yourself.
Right, I did forget that, yeah.
So, because almost everyone in your life knew you were going to do this, you put it upon yourself that your success is almost like giving back to these people for some reason. And if you don't finish this thing, you're letting every single one of them down. So now that all that pressure is on you. You felt trapped out there.
Yeah.
You felt trapped that you can't come home. You felt trapped that you can't see me, can't see your parents, that you have to make friends out there to keep going. Everything about the way you're explaining that experience is you felt trapped there. Even though in your mind it's like, this is what I want to do. I think those two things were kind of running parallel, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, of course you want to do that. You've been so excited for this for so long. But you had this feeling that now you have to be here and you don't have a choice.
That all sounds really rough, and it was tough to deal with that. And I do have that other video talking about how you can kind of recover from a failed thru hike, so you can check that out. I will link that above. But I want to talk specifically about this specific situation. So if you find yourself trapped, or if you find yourself anxious or missing family, I just want to say, like, it's okay. That's normal. People feel that more than people let on, and that's a legitimate reason to get off trail. Before you thru hike, there's some things you can do, which is kind of evaluate what that's going to look like and really think hard on how you can combat that, what kind of thoughts you can combat. You can stay present. That's helped me in my anxiety journey since 2017, is just staying present in the moment and just not thinking about the future. But if it does get to the point where you aren't enjoying the trail, that's something you have to think about probably to get off. Like, maybe this isn't a good time, because for me, it wasn't a good time. We thru hiked in 2019. 2 years later, we decided to go back.
I mean, it was your decision to get out there, right? And there wasn't really anything, there's nothing wrong with that decision. Like, go for it. But just as much as it's okay to make the decision to get out there, it's just as okay to make the decision to call it short. Or you getting off there has to be a legit reason. But all it comes down to is a decision. You made the decision to go, that's okay. And if you make the decision to get off, that's okay. And I mean, we had good friends out there. Some people had to call it short, and then they came back later on and tried again and called it short again, similar to your experience in 2017.
Very similar, yeah.
We had other friends that quit in Maine, in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And Maine, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, we were sad to see them not finish, but it wasn't like there was nothing wrong with that decision.
No.
I think there's an unnecessary pressure if everything in you is saying I think I should get off, I just think that's unnecessary pressure to fight that your whole time.
And like, you really do want to enjoy the trail the way it deserves. Just because you don't enjoy it now doesn't mean you can't in the future. Maybe you need a friend to do it with you, or start for the first 2 weeks with you. Maybe you just do in sections. Like when I finished my 2017 failed through hike, I thought I was going to be a section hiker. Again, this was just my experience that I wanted to share with you guys and tell the story of when I actually quit a thru hike. I know this whole channel is dedicated pretty much to thru hiking, and I just wanted to share my experience of failing one. And I was lucky to have my husband here with me, Sheriff. Again, if you guys have experienced something similar, comment below. Would love to start a discussion about this. It's just my story, it's my experience. If you want some proactive ways on how to recover from a failed thru hike, you can check out the video that I do have linked above, or I think I'll have it linked in the description as well. I'm gonna do my little tradition where I have you guys comment a emoji. Commenting this emoji lets me know that you did watch the end. So let's comment a rain cloud, because of the rain that I don't know why. There doesn't need to be a reason. Just comment a rain cloud. That is all for right now. If you guys do like these videos that I have the other half of the Dower Duo, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and happy hiking.